It is a beautiful morning in the mountains of southern Appalachia. We're still having some cool mornings. It was down in the 50s this morning. Feels really good. It was even so cool, Matt made me go out on the back deck early this morning and said, come out here and feel this. If only it could be like this every day is what he said. He can't stand the hot weather. And he told me that by the end of the week we're going to have some really hot weather, probably the hottest we've had so far this year. So we had a plan of what we was going to do today. We still need to put compost in our raised beds on the bank so that we can plant in them. We've not managed to get that done. But Matt's plans got waylaid late last night, about 9 o'clock. He had just finished actually working on Corey and Austin's house, trying to get the heat and air in, him and Daniel working after Daniel got off work. And he got home, he was tired. I was going to make him something to eat, and Corey called and said they didn't have any water. So he went back and checked on a few things, and he thinks it's actually the pump in the well. Of course, he wasn't going to try to change that last night. Corey and Austin come up and took baths and took them some water back with them, and now this morning that's what Matt's working on their well. Probably going to have to change the pump. He's got to pull it first. So anyway, he's not going to help me this morning. I really can't do that job by myself because now we can use the tractor to get the compost closer, and I've not yet learned how to drive the tractor. Maybe I will. Anyway, I have some other jobs I desperately need to do. One of them is these flowers right here. Corey got some of them for me for Mother's Day. I think one of them was for Katie, but I'm going to plant it too. And then some of the others I bought, I had some that I was going to plant for Granny, and I bought extra. I didn't mean to. I thought I was going to plant them all down there, but I ended up not planting them. And then also I found some on clearance at Walmart, which was these little moss roses. They're really pretty. I've planted them before in the past. They are an annual, so they won't last through my winters. The first frost will kill them, but they're pretty hardy other than that, and they have a really pretty bloom. Some of them's not opened up yet there, and I don't know if the other one don't have a bloom on it either. They probably need to be out of these pots is what it is. This one that Corey got me, this was I think a blanket flower. It's so bad, it's coming out the bottom, the roots are. It desperately needs to be planted. And then the lantanas, I got those and they need to be planted. This was a vinca. This is the extra one I got from the ones I bought for Granny. So an extra one. Now I have to figure out where I want to put them. I know I want to put some of them. The bed behind our house here, I'll show you when I start planting the flowers. It gets that afternoon sun, and then it bakes because of the house. The sun radiates, hits the house and radiates back down. So that bed right there is real tricky to try to get anything to grow in. Last year I put dwarf sunflowers in it, and they did beautiful. And I had cosmos in there, and the yellow and the pink was just so lovely. It was just beautiful. But this year I've planted those dwarf sunflowers twice, and not one has come up is all out of all the ones I planted. So that's just not, I don't know if something's digging them up and eating them or what's happening, but that's not going to work. And so I still have some holes in there. I think I'm going to put the blanket flower there. I might regret it maybe when I take it out I might be able to divide it out and plant it in 2 or 3 places. But I guess I'm going to put it there, and I'm going to put some of the lantana. I would really love for that to be filled in as I'm sitting here looking at it. Katie's poppies have took over one end of it, and they've just been beautiful, so pretty. There's a hosta in there that I need to remove. It's been there for years and years. And there's irises. We removed a lot of them, but they just, you can't hardly kill an iris, so they just keep coming back. And in my experience, you can't hardly kill a hosta either. Hostas are typically thought of as shade plants, and they do love the shade. I have my big giant ones under the porch where they get lots of shade. They love that, but hostas don't mind sunshine either. So, but that one's kind of in the way, so I would love to remove it. I probably won't do that today. I'll probably just plant these things around it. A few of the things I planted in there are coming up. I've seen a few hostas, not hostas, a few cosmos and a few zinnias. So hopefully they'll continue to grow and they'll be blooming before we know it. One other thing I might tackle today, if I accomplish this, I've got some, I don't know what I've done with them. I brought out some, they're in my pocket, some seeds, thinking maybe I would put some of these in there. I don't know if I will or not, but just cosmos and 4 o'clocks and some more zinnias. Old maids, as Granny would call them. So I might see if I can all those packs have been opened, see if I can put them somewhere. A lot of people told me they have 4-o'clocks that almost become invasive because they reseed themselves. That hasn't happened to me yet, but it might someday if I ever got them to grow. I've just not had good luck getting 4-o'clocks to grow. And the other thing I would like to do is I want to get rid of my green stalks. Not get rid of them. Well, one of them I'm going to share with Corey, but I want to change what's in them. So Matt and I, many weeks ago, months ago now, one of the raised beds he got me for Christmas, we put it up, we put all the dirt in it, and then I decided I wanted to put the strawberries out of the green stalks into it because I think they would do better. So I might try to do that today. If I got that accomplished, then I could take one of those green stalks and maybe put some flowers, maybe some nasturtiums or something in it, and then go ahead and get the other one ready to give to Corey, which she won't be able to use this year, but she'll have it for next year. So this is the bed I was talking about that gets the afternoon sun. It's really shaded right now early in the morning, but as the sun begins to come around the house, it starts hitting it, and then by late evening it just radiates from that wall down to the bed. Of course, that sunshine doesn't bother the anemone, the September charm. You can see how big and lush it is, and I've pulled it up and pulled it up. And it really is unusual to me, but I don't know, I guess, much about it, that it doesn't seem to bother the lamb's ear. It has got, that one has grew a lot too. I think I just planted that last year, and you can see how large it is. This is some of the wild tiger lilies that Granny gave me that she was talking about in a recent video. So you can see mine don't look near as good as hers. Maybe they're getting too much sunshine. Here's the gum of irises. They've already bloomed for this year. I may just get in there and really cut those back. And there's the hosta that I was talking about that I would like to move. I do have some yarrow in here. It's really pretty. It's blooming right now, but it's got so big and leggy, I need to cut it back and make it a little bushier. And then Katie's poppies. You can see there's a little honeybee on that one. They are so pretty. They've just been lovely this year. And they really just spread on their own. There was a few here last year, so I'm guessing next year there'll be even more. But that's okay with me. I know it's okay with Katie. We just think they're a beautiful flower. I did plant some nasturtiums early in the spring, and they're doing pretty good right here. I don't have any over there in that direct sunlight, though. This is kind of on the corner of the house. Here's one of the little holes in the area that I tried to plant some stuff in 2 or 3 times and nothing come up. I can see the anemone, though, is trying to encroach back into that area. Then over here, you can see there's a large area as it goes on back through the bed that is, be really pretty if I had flowers in it. There's 1 or 2 of the cosmos and 1 or 2 of the zinnias growing, but that's it for them. And lots of room for other flowers. So I think that's where I'm going to try to put the lantana and the blanket flower. Not sure if I dug my hole deep enough or not, but you can see how terribly root bound the plant is. I'm going to try to break some of those up. I'll just break some of them off and hope that encourages some new growth. I'll cut back some of these too and hope that encourages some new growth. I think in that area right beside it, I'm going to put some of the little moss roses. I like to put some of them up front too, but there's one I could do. One of the pink ones too. And one over there. There's always rocks I like to keep a bucket or a container near me so when I find rocks or weeds like this, I have somewhere handy to throw them. I almost wonder if I shouldn't put this one on the other side. Well, I give that area a drastic haircut, cut it all back. I'm going to go get a shovel and see if I can get those hostas out. I might get part of the irises, but at least I'm going to get the hostas. And I cut the yarrow back real hard like that, but it will come back out and it'll probably bloom again before summer's over. But it was so big and so top heavy. And another thing that was happening, that area was so congested that it was blocking the sunlight from I see one or two little cosmos there and my little zinnias. And there was also a different kind of poppy there that's coming up, and it just couldn't get any air or any sunshine. So maybe that'll help them. And even though it looks bad right now, I'm still glad I did it because it'll give me more room for other flowers that I like better. How's it going? Well, I got the hostas up. I done much more work than I thought I was going to do, but I'm so glad I did it. I got a lot of the irises up too. I left one little patch of them there. They'll spread again. All those I dug up though, the irises and the hostas, I'm going to take and put on the big bank behind our house, take them and lay them down somewhere up there and let them grow where they will. Once I do that and I get all the rest of my mess cleaned up, I'll be ready to plant the lantanas in there and see if I can come up with anything else. Maybe I'll plant some of those seeds. I think I've come up with a plan. I'm going to plant the lantanas where I've got them setting, the vinca there, and then in between all that, I'm going to plant some of those flower seeds, the zinnias and the 4 o'clocks and the cosmos, especially the cosmos, because I know they do good here. There's 1 or 2 back there. You can see how leggy they are because they were so shaded, they've fallen over. I'll leave those, but I'll plant some more in the hopes that they will come up and do good for me this summer. It'll be later than usual for them to bloom, but they'll still be beautiful. I ran out of seeds, so I went back in to get some more. I got some more zinnias. Those look pretty. Got some bachelor buttons. I got some straw flowers. I've never really been able to grow them, and I have no clue. It doesn't say on the back if they like hot, full sun or not, but I'm going to try them. And then I even got some marigold. They're supposed to be dwarf. If they're like the ones last year, they're supposed to be dwarf. I'll have to pull them up, or Matt'll get me. But I'm even going to plant some of those in the very front. I got it all watered in, and I think it looks pretty good. It'll look better if all those seeds I planted come up, and of course if all the plants I planted fill in. I'm glad I got rid of the hosta. I probably didn't. It probably will come back, but I tried to get all the roots. Got rid of some of the irises, and at least I cut them back and was able to cut the yarrow back. I know that'll help it. So I'm very pleased with how it looks right now, and hope I'll be even more pleased if everything grows. Well, feels good to have my first chore completed. I don't really have it completed though, because I have 2 of the moss roses, the yellow, and 2 of the pink left to plant. And then I also have this one that Corey got Katie for Mother's Day. It's a pentas, it says it is. It's really pretty. I should have looked to see if it needed what it needed, if it was full sun. Full sun plus 6 hours. I could have put it in there. I should have. But I still have my bed up in front of my kitchen window, which is a mess because of those anemones taking over that I need to work on. So I could save those for that bed. I really want to do my strawberries though today. Decisions, right? These would also be really pretty. I found one more pot. Corey got me these pots last year. They look like they're metal. I don't know. They look ceramic, but they are metal, is what I'm trying to say. I have all of them out here in use except this one, so I could put, those would be really pretty in there. If I put some of both colors, maybe one of each in there, I might do that. That would be really lovely. And I did start weeding in my bed up there. I've just not got very far down the bed, but maybe I've got far enough that I could go ahead and plant this one. And then I could come back and do the strawberries. Well, that was easy enough. Now I just like the one pink and the one yellow for that. This is the raised bed that I want to put the strawberries in. As you can see, since me and Matt filled it several months ago, it's got weeds growing in it now. Got a morning glory, some grass, and just some weeds. So I'll have to get those out before I start. So this is one of the green stalks that I want to remove the strawberries. You can see those that plant right there looks really good. Some of the little holes, the plant has died over the winter, like that one. Then there's some more growth down at the bottom. The strawberries that did the best this year were these in these grow bags. That's what started making me want to move them out of the green stalk. As they grew last year, these grow bags were beside the green stalk. They had potatoes in them, and the little runners just, took root and started growing, and I just left them. And then they actually produced a lot of strawberries for us this year. In fact, there's one still there. It needs to be eaten. Most of them are already gone. I will leave these in here. I won't remove these. I'll leave them. This is the other green stalk that has strawberries in it. And just like the other one, you can see there's one hole with the plant, and the one right beside it doesn't have anything in it. If you're not familiar with green stalks, each of these pieces will just come loose. They just sit on top of each other. They are heavy once they have dirt in them, but I'll be able to lift them off. And as I lift them off, the ones for Corey, I'll probably just leave sitting somewhere, and they would be easier to load in a truck and take down there, whichever one I give Corey. The other one, while I've got them off, I will add some more. Usually we do that, add some compost or something to each little hole. and then put it back together, and then I'll go in and get me, I think I'm going to do nasturtiums in. I'm going in and get my nasturtiums and just plant a nasturtium seed in each little hole. Now those moss roses that I had, they would be pretty in a green stalk too, but I've already planted them where I'm going to plant them, so I'm not going to think about that. I'm just going to do it all in nasturtiums since I love them. Although even as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, but what if you had some basil in one of them? I don't know. I may change my mind before I get to the planting part. But the first thing is I've got to take all the pieces apart, actually transplant the strawberries into that larger bed, and then I'll worry about what I'm going to put in it. I got all the strawberries planted. I cut off their green leaves, cut off that just to encourage new growths to come out, and so that the roots could just focus on trying to settle into their new home instead of, provide support for that growth that was already there. Hopefully they'll do better in that bed for us. And it was kind of damp, so I think they'll be okay until late this evening. I'll have to come back and make sure that I water them really good. But I'm going to wait till the sun starts going down before I do that. I ran in and found some of my nasturtium seeds that I save every year. I also found some dwarf Greek basil and some thyme. So I might mix that up in the green stalk with the nasturtiums and see how those do. I'm so happy to get all those chores done, mostly because of those flowers in the pots. They were so root bound, and I don't want to waste Corey's money or my money, and I also don't want to waste though the beauty that they're going to bring us if they don't die, if I keep them from dying. So I'm really happy about finally getting those in the ground. I'm really happy too that I got that one bed so cleaned out, removed the hosta. I'm sure that there'll be a piece of hosta that'll come back, but hopefully I got most of it. Got some of the irises, and just cutting all that back, the yarrow and everything, I think will really allow all the seeds I planted to have room to actually get some rain and some sunshine, and hopefully they'll grow and thrive, and by the end of the summer I'll have some beautiful flowers there. Nice to have the strawberries done, so hopefully they'll do better there. And I'm hopeful that my green stalk will be pretty with the herbs and the nasturtiums. Hopefully that'll be a beautiful sight too. All the gardens are really doing good, and all the flowers that I've planted are doing good too, except the ones in that bed that wouldn't come up for me. I'm convinced though that something kept eating the dwarf sunflowers. But everything's really looking nice. If you watch my recent video with Granny, you got to see us walk around her yard and her talk about some of her flowers and look at them. She really loves flowers, and I love them too. I used to just be plumb foolish about them when me and Matt were first married and first moved in here. Our yard was different in those days, so we didn't have as much space, but that's all I cared about was flowers. I didn't have any money, but my aunts and Granny and friends and different people would share with me. Sometimes I'd look on the clearance racks at Walmart or somewhere like that and buy a plant or two, but most of mine came from people just giving me a start of this or a start of that. It was only after Corey and Katie got bigger that I realized maybe I should be starting to grow food for my family. Of course, in those days, we still helped Pap with his big garden, so we had, he shared with us and we helped him, so we shared in that bounty. But once I started actually just planting vegetables, I kind of forgot about my flowers. Now, I went to great lengths to save them when Matt and I were going to have their grading done. I knew that they would mess up a lot of my flowers because there was going to be dirt, several feet of dirt moved in some of the places where they were at. I spent days digging them all up, and I carried them down between our house and Pap and Granny's. There was like a little, years ago, where they'd pushed out to build Pap's house. There was kind of like a little dozer road, and I laid them all in there. And then they did all the grading, and I brought them back up here and planted them back. But somehow, after I started doing the vegetables, I just kind of forgot about the flowers and didn't really. We dug some of them up, and I don't even know what I did with them. If I give them back to Granny, or some of them are off the bank where they got pushed off the bank, they're growing. They're still there. But I just focused on growing the food. And then several years ago, I started thinking, well, I could do both. I could. So I have so enjoyed that since I've decided that and realized that I could do both. And even where I'm sitting right now, where I have the flowers that I got from the Satterfields sitting around all of our raised beds, it's just so pretty. Of course, the flowers like the nasturtiums are edible. You can eat them. And then like Katie's wonderful poppies over here, when I was cleaning out that bed, the honeybees were just having a heyday. They were just all over them. So there are lots of benefits to having flowers besides the beauty that they bring. There is a real tradition in my family, and I'm sure in yours too, but of women who really love the flowers like Granny. Her mother did. My mama and my great-grandmother, Carrie, she did. We called her Big Grandma. One of my very first memories, earliest memories, was that I was in their flower garden, Big Grandma's flower garden, Mama's flower garden with them. And I had on a little yellow sweater. I don't know if it was spring of the year or if Granny just thought I'd be cold or what, but I had to be really little. And a bumblebee landed on my sweater right here. That's the part I can still remember, is looking down and seeing it. And, Big Grandma died when I was probably 5, maybe, and then Mama Marie died when I was in 5th grade. So it's not like I got to know them as an adult, and ask them a lot of questions or anything. But I know they loved their flowers, and I like to think about that Maybe that's where my first love, was there in the garden with them. And certainly one of them showed me they didn't want me to be afraid. They just showed me the bumblebee, and it was just stark against the yellow sweater. It was just so pretty. So maybe that's why I was never ever afraid of bees too. But I love that memory. And I have other memories like that, of course, being with Granny and helping with her flowers. And I have a piece of Granny Gazzy's rose. I have a piece of my Uncle Woodrow's rose. So all those things are so meaningful. If you ever have the opportunity to visit an old home site, a lot of times, no matter how humble the abode, maybe there's nothing left there, but almost every time, even if it's a humble place, you can't find the foundation or whatever, or if it was a big mansion, either way, a lot of times what happens once the house is gone, those flowers, they keep coming back. Think of the spring daffodils. I think of what we call yellow bells, forsythias. I've got a spider web right in front of the camera there. But forsythias, what we call yellow bells, you'll see them blooming in the spring. Sometimes you'll see irises and things. And like I said, no matter how humble the abode was, somebody cared enough to plant some flowers and just for their beauty. And it's really powerful when you think about those people that planted them that long ago. And then, here if I'm, up in the woods or something and I walk by one of those old home places and there I see the flowers, that I'm still enjoying them today. In the same way that the rose that my Granny Gazzy or Woodrow really loved and enjoyed all these years later, a piece of what they had, they shared with Granny. Granny shared it with me. Here I have it. Hopefully I can share it with Corey and just continue the joy that those blooms are bringing. For the last several days, I've had a dear old friend on my mind, Keith Jones. He died in 2017, so he's been gone a while. I actually met Keith from his mother, Etheline Dyer Jones. I met Etheline from the Blind Pig and the Acorn. She was from Choestoe section. She lived in Milledgeville, Georgia then, but the Choestoe section over in Union County. And she was a great historian. She wrote prolifically about that area, and she was just a fantastic writer. She was also a poet, but just a dear, sweet person. And we made friends through the Blind Pig and the Acorn, and we had so much in common. And one year she invited me to come to their family reunion. Well, their family reunion was like most, had wonderful good food to eat, lots of people there, but they just went all out on the history aspect of it, and they had different little programs where people would get up and talk about their ancestors and tell like their profile of their life and what had happened to them. It was just fascinating, even though they wasn't my family. But that's where I first met Keith, was at that reunion. And he was a pastor, and over the years he become like a storyteller. So he would come to the John C. Campbell Folk School and tell stories there. And I have several of his wonderful stories he wrote on the Blind Pig and the Acorn. Some about his family, some real things, and then some that he embellished and just fiction stories that he made up that are really great too. In fact, I shared one of those this morning, a repeat, because he's been gone. I first shared it back in 2015, but it was about him getting to fish with his Aunt Avery when he was a boy. Really beautifully written, and just really makes you want to go fishing and, you know, long to be a little boy again or a little girl again and get to do the things that you get to do in the summer. But way back then, Keith, he sent me a picture he wanted me to see. I guess I'd been talking about flowers and probably about like Granny and me walking around and looking at them or something like that, since that's like such a strong tradition in the mountains of Appalachia, probably elsewhere too, but definitely here. And he sent me a picture of Emma Reese. She was Herbert Byron Reese's mother, if you're familiar with him. He was a very famous poet, and he was from the area of North Georgia. And Ethelene and Keith really, really liked him and liked his writings. Anyway, it was a picture of her at her house, and she was in her garden there, and the beautiful phlox blooming, and you could see the old farmhouse behind her, and her yard just looks neat as a pin. And I could just imagine her walking around and showing off, you know, her flowers to whoever come by. And I'm sure Keith could too, and that's why he sent it to me. You know, he wanted me to see, and he even says in the email that he sent it, you know, even said, like, I tried to figure out how to add it to your blog, but I couldn't, because you can't leave photos in the comments. But it was the same thought that he had. In the video that I did with Granny, if you got to see it, you'll remember that she said pretty much her favorite place to be was in the green bean patch. You know, that's where she wanted to be. Well, I do love to pick green beans, but I guess my favorite place to be is just in my gardens, whether I'm working on, you know, if me and Matt are planting something, if I'm harvesting squash or zucchini or tomatoes or beans, whatever, or working in my flowers. There's just nothing that fulfills and nourishes my soul more than that. So I've really enjoyed today, and I hope that you enjoyed spending time with me. I'm always glad when you stop by to help me celebrate Appalachia.